corporations and set up by the public interest. And the banks have had a real good ride with government money. I voted against the bailout because I don't think, I think you did too, didn't you? Did you vote against it? We both voted against the bailout. I voted against it because I don't think the government ought to be taking a step and interfering in the private sector. I also think that the bailout gave the banks an ability to be able to take their money, invest it. Some got money from the Fed and parked it at the Fed so they get a higher interest rate. I have businesses in my district that are failing because they can't get money from banks. The banks don't run this country. They may think they do, but they don't run the country. And one way to show it is to put a bonus tax on.
Well, but Congressman, to both of you, on the other side of this, though, the banks will tell you, look, I mean, you could jeopardize lending. I mean, you've just now got capital beginning to unfreeze and lending beginning to unfreeze. That's what I'm saying. It's just barely starting to unthaw. And then their issue is, look, if you're going to put capital requirements on this bonus, all of that stuff, that could affect business in a negative way for them. And then they get nervous. They freeze up. They don't lend to the constituents in your district.
Look, Washington's got to understand that the private sector is not the enemy or not even an ally. It's the essential driving force of prosperity, not government. But we've also got to understand that the private sector is essential, but mercantilism, government favoring one part of the economy over another, Washington picking winners and losers in the private sector is just as immoral as government going out there and picking winners and losers in the social agendas. And so the biggest thing we got to get here is Wall Street may talk about capitalism, but when times get a little tough for them, they ask for mercantilism. They ask for government to choose the winners like we did with AIG. But we've got to get back to this issue that there's a proper place for government, and it's out of people's pockets. It's out of their lives, and allow them to do it under supervision, but not to sit there and subsidize the people when they fail, be it big corporations or be people that have made bad decisions in their personal life. And Washington always wants to be the good guy. Sometimes being a responsible leader means telling people you've got to be responsible, and the private sector's got to do its part, but it's also can't look to Washington as being a welfare program for them just as much as we tell the people across the country.
I've got a Wall Street voice with me. Hold on, guys.
Congressman Kucinich, Frank Aquila here. Everybody agrees jobs is the priority. That's a nonpartisan issue. But you said a statement earlier that I think is very interesting. You said private sector is not creating and investing in jobs, so government has to do it. Shouldn't the first priority of government be to figure out why the businesses in your district here in New York are not investing in jobs, why they're taking jobs overseas, why they're retrenching? Shouldn't that be something that government looks at? What is government doing that is impeding that?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We need to look at economic policies that cause jobs to be lost. For example, America doesn't have a manufacturing policy. It's amazing. I mean, here we've been the manufacturing power in the world. We don't have a manufacturing policy.
We've driven them overseas.
Well, I've introduced a bill saying that we have to declare that automotive, aerospace, shipping, vital to our national security. We have to have a policy to create jobs. You know, when the private sector isn't creating the jobs, I feel the government has a moral responsibility. FDR put millions of people back to work rebuilding America's infrastructure. We have over $3 trillion in infrastructure needs that aren't being met. We have the needs. We have the people out of work. Let's get America moving again. We could get this economy rip-roaring if we would just unleash the real power to create jobs. We're not doing it yet. Maybe we will.
And we haven't. A good example is the steel industry depends on lots of power. The fact is, in the United States, the most cost-effective and cleanest technology to be able to generate large amounts of electricity is nuclear power. I was glad to see the president finally being brave enough to step forward. And as somebody who's been involved in the environmental movement for a long time, those of us that really see that the economy and the environment can actually be served at the same time are very happy to see the president brave enough to say, look, we need clean, non-polluting power. We need it now. We can't wait for another 2 decades, and the fact is nuclear power is going to be that. As France has proven and people around the world have shown, as the founder of Greenpeace points out, if you really care about the planet, care about the economy, then you got to be brave enough to say we need to develop our nuclear assets and our oil and gas assets and use those profits.
Where do you store the nuclear waste? And who pays for it?
China. Wait a second. You got it right now where France reprocesses all of their nuclear waste.
Where do you store the waste?
You don't store it.
Utility rates are up because of nuclear power.
That is the biggest pollution in the world. You're going to see California's governor is going to be re-looking at it. The fact is France has reprocessed for 20 years.
Green energy.
It's make it legal to be able to work.
Can I just please invite both of you back anytime you want to come on to the show? This has been great.
Anytime.
Thank you, guys. Look at you two.
And I'll challenge my congressman. I own more solar panels than he does.
And more surf, too.
That's good. Thanks.